Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Katie Thedford. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Brightspot, and I'll be walking you through and moderating today's presentation. We do have Q&A open, so if you guys want to drop any questions you may have in that little Q&A box at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, we'll be able to get to those at the end of our discussion today. Today, we're focusing specifically on channel incentives and sales rewards and what's actually working as we gear and head into 2026. This isn't just theory, it's built from hundreds of programs, real client data, and what we're seeing drive performance right now. I'm excited to introduce our speakers today, starting out with Mike May, our Executive Chairman. Kelly Coons, our Vice President of Operations, and Stephen Curl, our Director of Incentives. Mike is celebrating his 25th anniversary with Brightspot this summer, which is very exciting. We're very lucky to have him as our fearless leader. He was also named top 20 incentive industry professionals by Incentive magazines as well. And then Kelly was recently promoted to our Vice President of Operations, leading the charge as our first female Vice President here at Brightspot. And Stephen comes with over 20 years of experience in the incentive industry. So, leading on our experts here today and excited to have them share all of their knowledge. With that, I'll go ahead and pass it to Mike and we can get started.
Yes, thank you so much, Katie, and thank you to everybody that joined. You're really excited about what we're going to share today. We've culled these insights from 75 different clients that Brightspot works with, and probably about 300 different incentive programs. And we've also are bringing in outside research from the Incentive Research Foundation, as well as a group called Channel Marketing Association. We did one of these webinars yesterday talking about trends and recommendations in the meeting and incentive travel space, where I feel like there's more research bodies, more media coverage from industry magazines. But in the channel space, like everything, channels are so fragmented and they're so varied that I feel like it's harder to really get a pulse of what's going on in the space. So that's why we've got Kelly and Stephen, and we've talked internally with our project managers and looked at these other external sources. So what we're going to try to do is share with you the best of everything that we have curated, but also add actionable to-dos and recommendations on what we think you ought to be doing in 2026. And why it matters so much is channels continue to grow more complex. Business grows more complex. I sometimes wonder after 40 years in business if it will ever reach equilibrium or it will ever slow down. It feels like the goalposts are always moving, everything is always more complex. But there's also more competition for mind share. Reps are constantly turning over. We have a new generation of reps from the millennial and Gen Z entering the space. As I said, we've got rep turnover. Products are always growing more complex. There's a continuous movement from hardware to software and from one-time purchase to subscription. Loyalty is fragile, but also there's just less margin for wasted spend. Budgets are not going up. So channel marketers are having to make hard decisions, and we believe that incentives and rewards need to make sure that they are driving pipeline and influencing results. So what we're going to share today on our agenda is the channel reality that exists out there on Main Street, designs to move the proverbial middle, and as well as shifts that are occurring in both or all three of these: rewards, data, and technology. And then, as I said, we want to add actionable to-dos for you that are practical. And with that, we're going to dive into the trends from research, chat with our clients. And as Katie mentioned, feel free while we're talking to drop in Q&A, and we'll have that at the end.
And Mike, you mentioned the CMA, the Channel Marketing Association. They actually recently surveyed over 1,000 channel marketers, professionals who work in the partner space, and 81% of them said they have enablement programs for their partners. So we think enablement is a key component of any partner program. What we really want to focus on today is the training aspect of that, and that can come in many forms. Some of our technical clients have in-person training where it could be a half day or full day session. We think it's important to track attendees in those training situations and reward them for attending and completing those complex certifications. A lot of our clients also have their own LMS platform, which has a lot more features than just a standard PowerPoint or quiz training module. We recommend either integrating with that LMS, or you could just pass us a monthly or weekly file to notify us who's completed those trainings. But it's important to track that on the LMS platform and also reward the participants for that. And then one thing that we've seen a lot of success with in the past couple of years is micro learnings. So on our incentive software platform, we can actually host training content, which we describe as micro learnings, which is anything from like a 10 to 15-minute module. And where those really come in handy are two things. It's really great for new product launches in physical products. So think like the kitchen and bath space or flooring companies. They're releasing new product lines all the time. The showroom consultants that sell those products need to learn about those products right away so they can sell them to the customers in their showroom. And then also, it's good for training reinforcement on some of those technical trainings that we know take a lot longer, where it's an in-person training or maybe like a 2 to 3 hour course on an LMS. You could put a micro learning on top of that just as a refresher of what they learned during that, in-depth training session. So those are the three things we look at is track in-person training, integrate with an LMS or at least track with the LMS, and then add micro learnings to your actual incentive platform to reinforce other training activities. And that's just one part of the sales cycle. At Brightspot, we really promote touching every point of the sales cycle. And I think, Kelly, you have some more information about that.
I do. Thank you, Stephen. Let's see, I don't know if you just said this or not, but this term won't be new to anyone, but more and more often we're hearing our clients and prospects say channel first and partner first because of the importance of that mindset and the value that it holds in behavioral incentives. So, girl, you just touched on training, but the next step in that process as we map from point A to point B and getting to the sale is deal reg. And some of the research shows that deal reg is having a second act, if you will. Partners are starting to see deal reg as a trust contract, not so much just a checkbox or a form. And really what's changing behind that is the intent. Leading vendors are redesigning deal reg to be partner first, automated, and intelligent. And the biggest shift in that is coming from the fact that exclusivity and pricing are no longer enough on their own. We're seeing that partners, in our programs and in the research, they want clarity, speed, and alignment. They want to know that they're adding value, but they're also getting value in return, not just because they were first in the system. So as far as a trend, while deal reg is nothing new, one of those trends that we're seeing is that in a partner first channel space, incentives won't be transactional, they'll be strategic. So recognizing and mapping the process from training to sale is becoming more important than ever because partners want to be better, faster, and more credible in front of their customers. Enablement is becoming the new currency. It always has been, but the trend is that's not going away. So focus on enablement as a currency in your channel. The research went on to reveal that relationship building events, demos, and strategy sessions are also in demand by partners. What that means is that partners want to be seen, heard, and trusted, not just managed. That next step in the process, I just mentioned demo, but Carl talked about the importance of training and then deal reg, and then even incentivizing a demo and a proposal, regardless of sale, makes that mental muscle memory that much easier to get to the sale the next time around. Let's see, incentives are no longer about incomes. They increasingly reward inputs that lead to a sale. The new buzzwords that we're hearing are motions or plays that generate pipeline, with programs shifting from pay for sale to pay for value creation. So the to do here emphasize enablement, incentivize the sales cycle. Don't just break it down, but incentivize the sales cycle, and reward key steps along the way. Is breaking complex sales into steps keeps reps engaged each step of the way.
Kelly, I love that. I saw somebody who once looked at that slide and said, oh, when you just reward the sale, you're only rewarding the terminal objective, which
Ooh.
sounded like a very scientific term, the terminal objective. But knowing that many channels want to co-sell with partners, offering incentives at some of those earlier touch points encourages them to bring the sponsor into the deal quicker.
So true.
Let's see, team, much like that last term, terminal objective, this slide feels very scientific when it talks about the business operations scenario and reward value optimization. What I would tell you in plain English is that $125 is the motivational threshold. Clients often ask us, hey, Mike, what's the minimum award value that we should do? And this is the question that IRF answered with this research. The research would say $125. And what it means is the blue line, or the dark navy line, I should say, it says not worth the effort. So $125 is the point at which the other three lines, orange, light blue, yellow, exceed the not worth effort. So it means orange when somebody would consider the effort, blue, light blue when they would definitely make the effort, and yellow that they actually did make the effort. This feels right to me too. In previous years, what I would call the golden amount, which is that optimal or minimal threshold. Prior research, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, said $75. 5 years ago, it said $100. So $125 after recent inflation feels right. I will say this amount applies to professionals and higher end salespeople. There's another portion of the study that would suggest a smaller amount for retail or restaurant workers of maybe $25. But I think our to-do that is really kind of a common sense recommendation is to match the reward value to the effort required. When Stephen talked about learning, if somebody needs to spend 4 to 8 hours going through a very, very technical training that's going to result in a certification, don't offer them $25 to complete that certification. It probably needs to be even greater than the 125. But alternatively, we have some clients in that restaurant and retail space that do micro learnings. It would be way too costly to offer them 125. So it may be a $5 or $10 reward is enough, or even giving them a spin and win chance to spin the wheel and see if they could get a $25 or $50 award. So just make sure that your rewards are not underpowered and that they actually are effective.
Great advice, Mike. If only we could ask people what it would take for them to do something without it seeming crass. So that research is fantastic. Let's see, moving on to the next trend, and that is second tier reach beyond just exclusivity. You'll see on the screen here a triangle, and Brightspot coined the term award pyramid for tiered prize levels in a sales contest. The top of that pyramid is the grand prize, which has the highest value with the fewest number of winners, and its purpose is to create excitement, generate interest, be the wow factor, so that participants stop and ask, what is this prize? How do I win it? That's what we call promotability, that top of the triangle. In the middle are second place prizes to increase that number of winners, but of intermediate value awards, but still provide additional recognition. And then the bottom symbolically represents many more winners, but at much lower values. Those third place or consolation prizes create lots of winners and reach more participants. This tiered structure allows organizations to pull B performers to A-level performance and overcome the cynicism that not everybody can win, or that mental, I'll never make it to the top. But by adding tiers, it gives everyone a chance. The IRF conducted a study that looked at what top performing companies do differently. And the research that consistently comes to the forefront is that those top performing companies focus on two things: exclusivity and reach, which is exactly what the award pyramid does. And here at Brightspot, across the many programs that we manage for our clients, we also see the same thing over and over again. In the channel space, we know that 80% of sales come from that top 20%, and that top 20% will always perform. But we see by adding second and third tier, those awards, they move the middle 60, and a little bit of movement from that middle 60% has significant impact on both engagement and ROI. So your to-do here, consider a tiered program structure, add some second tier awards, and add a little bit of reach to a program that might be perceived as too exclusive.
Yeah, Kelly, I love that, especially the exclusive award offers. Like the chance to go to the Super Bowl or the Masters is something most people won't be able to do. So offering that as a prize is very appealing to our participants. So it's good to see the research backs that up.
Yeah.
Um, One other thing that we wanted to talk about is enlisting new channel reps. Obviously, we're always trying to add new partners to the program. That's everyone's goal. But I think one thing that often gets overlooked is re-engaging existing partners. Sales jobs tend to have a higher turnover rate than other jobs. So partner sales reps are constantly recycling, and it's important to re-engage those new partner reps. They might have been a partner for 10 years, but the sales force could be completely new in the last 4 years. So it's really important to engage those new reps. And the way we recommend doing that is two ways. A referral program, so you can refer your colleagues to the program and give them a small, maybe like $10 or $25 reward for referring their colleagues. And then also just a standard enrollment bonus. So you get a bonus the first time you sign up for a website. That really helps engage new participants. You can send out communications. And one thing I really recommend is putting a deadline on that. Most people get an email, they're either going to act on it then or they're going to hold on it and probably never look at it again. So make it a enrollment bonus for the end of the month. Enroll by such and such date and you'll get the bonus points. Giving them a deadline helps them act faster. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're doing enrollment bonuses is definitely try to put a deadline on that to make them act. And one thing that helps with this is you need to have reporting that ties into the enrollment. So on the next slide, we talk about reporting. What's really helpful is whatever your regional structure is like, whether it's a key account manager, a regional sales manager, or even the direct territory rep, we want to make sure that those people have access to enrollment data and sales data for all their customers. So it could be as simple as a front-end report that just has numbers of locations available and numbers of employees enrolled at those locations. Or we could go more advanced and do a visual report like a Power BI or a Tableau. And what that does that's really nice is it has filters and drill down capabilities. So me as a territory manager, I could actually view only my territory, so it's isolated to my data. And then when I go visit a specific location, I can pull up that location data and see exactly what each sales rep has done. How many sales have they submitted? How many training courses have they completed? Let's say I know there's 5 reps at this location and only 3 are enrolled. I can talk to the 2 people that are not enrolled about the program. And having access to real-time reports makes that easy to do for either the territory rep or regional rep. So that's really important at a detailed level. But what also is nice about the visual reports in Power BI is that we can build custom dashboards for a VP level or a C-suite so that they want to worry about overall program metrics. We can show them a completely different view that gives them a landscape of the entire program. And that really helps them make informed decisions when it comes time for budgets and forecasting. So what's great about tools like Power BI is you can have one dashboard customized for each view, and then the filters within that dashboard let you customize your look and feel. So one report gets access to every level of the business so they can see exactly what they need in real time.
Stephen, I love your dashboards because well, I feel like 10 years ago, everybody was dashboards, dashboards, dashboards. But then what happened is there were a lot of really ugly, ineffective dashboards. But these new business intelligence reporting tools have gotten so much better.
Yeah, and they're user friendly too. You can customize them. So a lot of times there's a little trial and error with clients where we'll send them version 1 and by version 3 or 4, it's exactly what they want. And they're easy to tweak. So it's nice.
Yeah. Good executive level reports the way to my heart. With that said, another trend that we're seeing here at Brightspot is the rise and the growth of referral programs. We all know the old adage, the strongest form of marketing is word of mouth, which is essentially what referral programs are, a recommendation from a friend. I'd also add that there's power in referral programs across all business segments. When most people hear referral program, they think refer a friend. But we manage referral programs in the consumer space, B2B space, SMB, and enterprise segments. And we found that when our clients synergize their efforts across segments with rich referral programs, incremental revenue has a sizable impact on the business as a whole. Let's see, we're probably all familiar at this point with the move to looking at revenue on a monthly or annual recurring basis as opposed to total contract value. And that shift has made it more difficult for sales reps to chase smaller dollar, or those larger deals, and instead smaller dollar transactions. So referral incentives are rising in prominence to reward end customers who refer their neighbor or reward technicians who get stopped in the street by prospects asking product questions. By having a program ready and on the spot, it captures a lead that you may not have had before. You'll see on the screen here just a trend in some of the data. I think I can safely say, maybe somebody stop me, but a 50% close rate in the channel space it's really good, actually. I mean, it might not look like a passing score, but in channel, if you can get a 50% close rate, you're doing something right. So your to-do here, incentivize referrals, or if you aren't running a referral program, seriously consider one. And to take it a step farther, incentivize both the referrer and the referee, because those referees often convert to referrers themselves.
Yeah, I love seeing that 50% close rate. That's the definition of a warm lead right there. And good job juggling referrer and referee. That's always a tongue twister for me. One thing that's really helpful in all programs, but referral programs specifically, is integration. So that's an example of a program where we would recommend a real-time API data connection. When those referrals come into our platform, they can be sent directly to your CRM platform so your sales team can act on those leads immediately. So API is one example of integration. We recommend that if you need frequent data connections, like I said, real-time data connections. But one thing that clients often overlook is everyone thinks they want API, but APIs are a little more expensive than a file drop. So consider when you're thinking about integration, consider the difference between an API, which is a real-time data connection, and then the difference between a daily or even weekly file drop. The integration cost for a file drop is significantly less than an API. So you need to balance the need for immediate data versus the cost of an API when you think about those two things. But we definitely recommend integration because what that does is it puts all the data in our system. And when we get all of the sales data, it allows us to look at the reports and do custom offers based on product category, product type. Even in the kitchen and bath space, we've incentivized a specific finish of a product during a quarter. So when we have access to all that data, whether it's weekly or in real time, it gives us the tools to offer rich incentives that align exactly with your business goals. And then one more thing on integration that I do recommend is almost all of our clients have a partner portal of some kind. I highly recommend doing a single sign-on service for that because it gives you one login and one password for everything. And another nice benefit to that is on your partner portal, you can advertise the incentive program. So you can have a banner for the incentive program with a single sign-on where they just click the link in that partner portal and go directly into the incentive program. It takes some of that enrollment step out. It's a frictionless experience, and it just makes it that much easier for the partner to engage with you.
Frictionless. I like that word. I might have to steal that at some point in my day. All right, so that's moving to communications. When we were preparing for this webinar, we debated, or really, I honestly questioned, are we still talking about communications? But this trend refuses to disappear because progress has just been slow. Or maybe I should say, we refuse to let it disappear because it's never not important. And the requirements around communication, as simple as that may sound, those requirements are ever evolving. No one wants a carte blanche message that's irrelevant or confusing to them. So we would recommend consider all channels, consider non-traditional channels as opportunities to synergize messaging and with a personal targeted touch. Add a little bit of extra effort to do the creative collateral and electronic communications, refresh graphic design, website, and email templates often. Not don't let them age with time, but keep them fresh. AI can assist with boilerplate copy and even a first pass at personalization. Everyone's intentions are good, but very often communications never rise to the top of the incentive marketer's to-do list. So that's where utilizing a partner that maintains a content calendar and project management system can ensure success, because refreshing communications isn't just cosmetic, it's motivational. And so is segmenting those messages to be meaningful to the recipient. I especially love this to do here. Treat creative and communications as part of the incentive architecture. They should be part of your program, part of the journey, not an afterthought.
Kelly, what do you think the open rate is on most communications?
In general, not at Brightspot. In general, we're talking less than 5%.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen anything from 5 to, I don't know, 30 or 40%. It depends on the reputation of the sender and how warm your relationship is. But all that to say, if people are opening and reading 20% of their email, there's opportunity to send a similar but different message 3 or 4 times before it breaks through. It's
Yeah,
rarely the first one.
no
So let's
harm
see,
in.
we're going to summarize these trends and then we'll jump to Q&A, because I know we'll probably have a lot of Q&A. But what these point to is talking, as we said, about moving the middle, behavioral incentives, those that drive pipeline more so than reward the final sale. I think a big one that we said, but I would emphasize it again, is activation of existing partners, existing sales reps, more so than recruitment of new ones. And then diving deep on some of these new tech tools and reporting tools that can help. So let's see, as we put these into practice, let's talk about what will win in 26. And we've summarized to these few words. Programs need to be smarter, broader, and more human. Now, that not necessarily louder, not necessarily more expensive, because most clients are not getting budget increases, but smarter by design, more intentional, going back and rethinking all that we're doing and asking ourselves, what is the why? What are the goals? But also reaching a wider audience. In any organization, whether it's an internal direct sales channel or an external indirect channel, there's always the A performers that are the top 20%, but the real opportunity is that broader middle 60% to try to engage them, as KK talked about, looking at ways to move beyond the top performers to the second tier. And, what are those things that are just going to, in general, drive pipeline, but also as much as possible in this AI world, trying to be human, be more personalized, and connect with our audience. So the approach at Brightspot is we strive to make sure that we are people first, that we're in all that we do, the way we interact with our customers, the way we interact with our participants, driven by data, driven by ROI, driven by performance metrics, and then make sure that what we're doing is building to perform and grow. We look beyond prepackaged solutions to those that can fit a diverse audience. We've mentioned today sales reps as diverse as construction products, flooring, kitchen and bath, all the way to software, technology, healthcare, financial services. So all of those audiences and personas of the reps are going to be different. So we need to build to what's going to perform for them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. With that, I'd love to go ahead and open things up for questions. If you have any questions about any of the trends that we've covered or how these ideas might apply to your specific channel or sales environment, we're ready and to answer any of those. So while you guys drop some questions in that little Q&A box, I'd love to pass it back over to Mike to talk about what's next.
Let's see. Yeah, I stare at this slide for a split second. I was like a deer in the headlights. Like, what did we say on this? So you can scan this to go to our full resource that talks about everything in detail that we shared here. But more than that, it shares a lot of good links to underlying research, other publications. As I said, we curated the best of the best. So I think it gives you a lot of good supporting data if you need to build a slide deck for your management team.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. All right. Our first question has rolled in. Do you feel that these award programs are effective in regions outside of the Americas? And are we able to initiate these programs in Europe?
Yeah, well, see, I'll jump in unless someone interrupts me. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. What's interesting is a lot of our in our software and technology vertical, the majority of our participants are across the pond, if you will. So yes, Brightspot does administer them, but the nuance that I'd mentioned there is just having a pulse on, what's most impactful from a global standpoint, what works from an incentive and award perspective in America won't work in every single country. So having a partner with a global approach would be something that we'd recommend. But yes, we absolutely see incentive programs be effective on a global scale.
Hey, KK, maybe could you talk about translations? What do you recommend? That always comes up. Do we translate? Do we not translate?
Yes, it can depend on the client and the channel. We do translate. Typically, it's a best practice just because it tends to be better received, and plus we all know the words of Dale Carnegie. Everyone loves the sound of their own name. Well, it sounds even better when it's in your own language. So, as a best practice, we typically recommend translating into 3 to up to 7, in one case, languages that will make the most sense for the program, for the business, and for the products.
Yeah, and that's where we really started leveraging AI. Our translation tool translates in real time using AI, and then we have the option to override certain sections if the customer or the client has specific copy they want to list. So it's nice that it's automated, but then also customizable after that.
And hey, I see that James had a follow-up question about compliance. And we're familiar in working with compliance, and that's where it helps us to get to understand what some of those hurdles might be, so that we can help our clients get a little bit creative with the award types that are offered or how they're classified internally as expense or contra revenue, for instance.
Yeah, I know we obviously can't be experts in 150 countries' tax laws, but it is fascinating to me as we talked about seeing things at different clients. We hear some clients that have said, oh, in Germany, we need to pay to an organization level and let them distribute it to the individual reps. But then other clients are not doing that.
Mhm.
So it feels like there's a diversity of opinions, and maybe one more, because international is always a hot topic. Stephen, what about localized awards? How do we go about trying to localize awards to different countries in Europe?
Yeah, so we have a global merchandise catalog that fulfills in country in over 100 different countries. And then our e-gift catalog covers about 85 countries right now. So gift cards actually kind of started in America and rolled out internationally. So it's starting to grow. You might see an option of like 50 to 60 cards in Germany versus 300 in the US. But we do offer real-time e-gift delivery and then in-country fulfillment for merchandise.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate, well, all three of you really for all of your contributions to that. Another question that came in is what incentive programs have been effective when you are unable to provide monetary incentives due to corporate policies with large tier one SPs that do not support spiffs from vendors? What items or experience incentives have been used to incent channel partners in the cybersecurity software space?
One, Mike, I'll let you elaborate, but one fun one that we have going on right now, along that similar vein, is a World Cup promotion. Where we have multiple winners in multiple countries that will win a World Cup experience. So less traditional, but still very promotable and exciting.
I feel like also we've been able to work with many of our clients and help them educate their, I could call them legal or I could call them the sales prevention department, but we've helped them educate that there's a distinction in terminology between what we would call a prepaid card and a gift card. Prepaid card is a Visa card. It is definitely cash-like. So sometimes people will say, "Oh, no, 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 we can't do cards." And what we really see is some clients will shy away from the cash-like prepaid card. But as Stephen talked about, a gift card catalog that includes dining, merchandise, shopping stores, while it may be denominated as a specific amount, we educate them. It's not really cash-like. It can't be converted to cash. It's going to be used for a dining experience. It's going to be used for a clothing purchase or a home goods. And that works for many clients where it moves away from feeling cash-like. And if nothing else, as Stephen said, we definitely have merchandise catalogs that have also become much more cost effective. When I first got into this industry long, long ago, Katie, when you said 25 years ago, this industry had a bad reputation for selling $1,000 TV for $2,000 in catalogs. So, people didn't like that. There's still shipping, handling, warehousing, distribution costs that are going to make it a little bit more than what somebody might pay at Best Buy, but that has definitely become more cost efficient.
Excellent.
Katie, I'm
Thank
seeing the
you.
Q&A. I like somebody named James says, I'm actually in Germany, and he said Mike is correct. So I'm just going to save that part. But but he says they run into that where some of their partners require things at a company level. And it is hard, James. I think if you can, even if you have to pay at a company level, we talked about enrollment. If we can get an enrollment at a person level, at a one-to-one level with the rep, so that there can be reporting and the rep has an expectation that they should be getting something from their company organization, I think that helps a great deal.
Yeah. And one thing I've done in the past with programs where you have to pay at the company level is try to give that company ideas on how to spend that money on employees, whether it's an enhanced Christmas party or, breakfast, free donuts for the staff, something like that, but give them packages that they can easily turn around and use for their staff to make sure that award is getting to the end salesperson.
Yeah, and I would add branding, which kind of aligns with the communications. You want them to know who it is that is who is the sponsor and who's underwriting that.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Another question that came in is what is the average cost of an incentive software platform?
Oh, okay. I'll be the one that gives the answer everybody loves. And that is it depends. Simple implementation, can begin as low as $10,000 and enterprise level solution, with heavy integrations could be upwards of 50. But we usually would say 10K is a good point of entry, especially when you're starting to manage, $100,000 or more via a spreadsheet. That's when you want to ditch the sheet and start looking at a platform.
Yeah. And one thing that we do that helps is that consultative sales approach. We have a base platform, but then there are add-on features. We want to make sure that you use the relevant add-on features. You don't need the full top tier platform. You can start at the bottom and then pick 3 or 4 items from each tier along the way to make sure it's the most cost-effective solution.
And actually, this is a great segue into our next question. Speaking of spreadsheets, KK, this person said, I'm tired of spreadsheets. Does a channel spiff need to have a certain number of reps or dollars in order to use a platform?
I'll jump in. what there is no hard number. I think there's a correlation between the size of the program and the tech. You don't want to over tech a small program, and you don't want to under tech a big program. What we usually see is that means you need at least 50,000 in rewards and probably 100 reps, because the minimum to get launched is probably going to be $10,000. So you want to make sure that the investment in tech is worth it relative to the rewards that are paid out. So greater than 100 reps or greater than 50K in rewards.
Excellent, thank you. And I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Um, this question came in and it says, do we have examples of effective incentive programs that reward behavior throughout the sales cycle? So kind of going back to that behavioral incentive slide, a stepped up type of incentive where they receive a lower valued gift for setting up a partner or client meeting, then a slightly higher valued gift for a verified quote or demo, and then a higher valued gift for a closed won deal.
See, it feels like the short answer is yes. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that succinctly because that is an effective and very well designed program that we'd certainly recommend. That's where Salesforce integration or even file transfer can be really helpful because that Op ID, is something that we can track throughout its life cycle stage from the moment it's registered from close. So those events within Salesforce are what we target from an integration standpoint.
Yeah, and I think as long as you have good data that when things move from those milestones, and we've usually seen it with longer sales cycles, bigger ticket sales, more complex products, but for sure.
Good data.
And especially in the demo component, we obviously want to incentivize the sales rep to book demos, but one thing that's been really successful is allowing that sales rep to incentivize their potential customers to actually attend a demo. And that's where the e-gifts are very nice because you can offer someone a $10 or $25 e-gift to attend a 32-hour long demo, and it gets partners in the door.
Awesome. And I think for our last question to kind of wrap us up, what visual reporting tools are we using and what do we like here at Brightspot?
So at Brightspot, we use Power BI, which is a Microsoft product. We lean towards that just because we use Office 365 for everything, so it works well with Excel. That's my preferred tool for visual reports. But the other most popular one is Tableau, which is a Salesforce product. That was actually kind of the first groundbreaking visual reporting tool, and Microsoft had to play catch up. But they've actually made a lot of progress in the last 5 years, and I prefer Power BI just because the Excel integration is easy, but Tableau and Power BI have very similar features.
Great. Thank you guys so much for your expertise and all of your answers to these very thoughtful questions that we got today. As we wrap up, I just want to reiterate that the big takeaway we hope that you leave today with is that programs that win in 2026 aren't bigger or louder. They're more intentional, more inclusive, and more human, even as they become more data driven. If you're heading into planning conversations for the year ahead, we encourage you to take a fresh look at who you're motivating, what behaviors you're rewarding, and how your incentives truly feel for the audience that's participating. If you'd like a partner, shameless plug, to help you think through that strategy, we'd love to continue the conversation with you. So thanks again to everyone for your time today, and we appreciate you all being here.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.